morning and thanks for watching the news with me, Tabi Kamangala Munifumbo. First, the headlines. Ministers face local travel restrictions. Malawians voice out expectations on the State of the Nation address. And in our special report, Feston Malegezo looks at hurdles ex-convicts face to be integrated back in their communities. We have these and other stories. Please stay with us. President Peter Mutharika has imposed strict limits on local travel by ministers and deputy ministers as part of ongoing austerity measures. This follows growing concerns over rising government expenditure on travel allowances and fuel. This is according to a memo released by the Office of the President and Cabinet. Rebecca Jimjega-Matemba has details in this report.
In a directive dated 11 February 2026, Chief Secretary to the Office of President and Cabinet, Justin Saidi, says the President has noted with great concern an increase in local travel by Cabinet members, which is straining limited public resources. According to the memo, with immediate effect, all ministers and deputy ministers are restricted to local trip per month. The directive reminds cabinet members that the government is operating under austerity budget measures. The order applies to all ministries and deputy ministers and takes effect immediately. Meanwhile, spokesperson in the Office of President and Cabinet, Focus Maganga, confirmed the development.
And Isaac Salima looks at the cost implications of the ministerial trips to taxpayers.
We are all aware of the economic challenges that are near.
President Peter Mutharika last year during the swearing-in ceremony of ministers directed them to be giving him reports every month. This then resulted in frequent ministerial visits. Almost all the cabinet ministers have been on the ground conducting tours to inspect infrastructure and assessing service delivery concerning their respective ministries. The ministers have been touting the visits as for evaluating progress, engaging with stakeholders, and strengthening government institution relations. The ministers are accompanied by their principal secretaries, directors, personal assistants, public relations officers, and also drivers. A source told us that a single ministerial visit consists of a minimum of 9 people. However, some civil society organizations have been saying that the tours need to be prudently conducted as they might be a drain to the country's scarce resources. Commentator Ernest Tindwa feels that there are other better ways on how the ministers can be in line with happenings in their ministries other than physical visits.
Supervision does not mean traveling. No, it doesn't mean traveling. Supervision means getting results, and getting results does not necessarily mean traveling. As I said, there are people on the ground for each and every ministry. So traveling has to be exceptional, not the norm as it is the case. You don't need to travel for people to work. If people have to work because you have traveled, then you have a problem which has to be addressed.
Economist Hape Chirwa said that such trips are always costly to the nation.
So when a minister visits, there are a number of issues that happens. The travel itself, maybe allowances, fuel, which is very, very expensive now. And again, those people that he is visiting, leaving other issues and then attend to the minister, so to the minister visit.
In November last year, the government announced 12 expenditure control measures in order to cut on expenses. The measures included a cut of fuel entitlements that saw public officers, including ministers, their deputies, and senior government officials having their fuel allocation reduced by 30%.
Malawians residing in Blantyre have expressed their expectations from the State of the Nation address, SONA, which President Peter Mutharika is expected to deliver today. Our reporter Daniel Zimba speaks to some people in the city and now reports.
Among other things, people in Branta City have highlighted issues of food security, fuel and foreign currency availability, affordable business loans and taxes among action areas. Eunice Nankwema from Chileka, Maureen Soko from Dirande, Jime Chisale from Bayani and Sane Chifambi from Chirimba townships in the city say they appreciate the government's efforts in easing the cost of living.
He should also talk about affordable fertilizer because Malawians value Nsima for food. Maize prices remain high despite the recent reduction. He should also talk about the measures to ensure fair taxes on imports.
I expect him to talk about the status of our road infrastructure and how will the government address them.
Young people are able to access the loans from Malawi Enterprise Development Fund because we are still struggling to sustain businesses.
Meanwhile, Consumers Association of Malawi Executive Director John Capito, as well as social and political analysts, have backed people's expectations from the president's first SONA. They emphasize that President Mutharika should clearly unveil measures that are being put in place to ensure that there is a conducive environment for everyone. This is the first time for Mutharika to address citizens since he assumed office on September 16 last year.
The Minister of Natural Resources, Patricia Whiskas, has said Malawi needs reliable early warning disaster systems to protect livelihoods and mitigate the impacts of natural disasters. Whiskas said this in Blantyre on Wednesday when she officially launched 3 major initiatives under her ministry. Selina Tambula has the details in this report.
The minister launched the Climate Resilience and Early Warning Systems Cruise, the Systematic Observation Financing Facility SOF grant, and a 10-year strategic plan for the Department of Climate Change and Meteorological Services. Whiskas says Malawi continues to be vulnerable to climate extremes.
We believe this is very important because it gives people room to react. In the end, it saves people's lives, it saves people's properties. So in terms of our response as a country to be able to respond to natural disasters, our plan is to ensure that communities have access to projecting messages, have access to weather forecast messages so that they are also able to respond to the messages in time.
Celeste Saulo is Secretary General of the World Meteorological Organization.
Well, certainly are crucial for the safety, for the well-being of Malawian population. And yesterday we visited communities that are highly engaged with having early warning systems. So this whole meeting is about how we empower Malawian people to make sure that they are not exposed or not so vulnerable to what climate hazards brings to them.
The meeting, among others, assessed several projects that are in the pipeline.
You're watching the news on Times TV. We'll be back with more after this break. Welcome back. After years behind bars, some ex-offenders have discovered that freedom from prison is not an end to their punishment. As they return home, their communities often expose them to stigma and rejection. In our special report, Feston Maligezo takes us to Mzimba district, where he tells the story of 2 former convicts who, in their quest to rebuild new lives, are battling raw community stigma.
Langson Chanza from Chisangano in Mzimba district was a child protection officer until 2017 when he called it quits. Doubling as a Zion Christian Church pastor and a child protection officer, he says he felt his life was increasingly in danger.
When a teenager has gotten married, I was doing whatever I can to end that marriage and make sure the girl goes back to school. So many people became my enemies, and in fear of losing my life, I stopped.
He then shifted his full attention to his pastoral ministry, but his faith was tested.
Her father told me that because the news was all over the area, it was better just to get married. So he brought her to my house. I accepted without knowing it was a trap.
Chanza was arrested for allegedly having sex with a child, a charge that was later changed to child abduction. He was convicted and sentenced to 12 years in prison. While serving his sentence, his first and second wives dumped him and married other men. As his sentence neared completion, he received more devastating news. His third wife was impregnated and she delivered twins. However, reintegration into his community, Matemanga village, has been far from smooth.
People should stop segregating the ex-convicts. I am pleading with you, my fellow Malawians. Please, stop this.
His wife, Eunice, says she is happy that the husband forgave her and that they are now living together, raising their 11 children. Chanza has continued to worship at his local Zion Christian church, where he is now the deputy pastor. The church's chairperson, Bentre Nyirenda, acknowledges the exclusion and resistance Chanza has faced.
Not all convicts might have committed an offense. Let us show them love when they are released. If we reject them, they end up feeling isolated.
The story of Chanza is not different from that of Shaope Kita from Mwekwendeni in Mzimba district, who was sentenced to 4 years imprisonment for theft. After his release, Kita found himself isolated. He believes such rejection pushes some ex-convicts back to crime.
We just endure the pain. It becomes a challenge to associate with people. Others say we are thugs, but I hope one day they will understand.
Currently, the Malawi Prison Service is implementing a restorative justice and peace-building project which started in 2022 aimed at enhancing reintegration and reducing reoffending. The project has reduced the reoffending rate to 20% from the previous recorded 30%, according to officials. At Mzuzu Prison, for example, spokesperson Macbeth Wasambo said they have managed to reconcile 207 cases since they started. However, Wasambo acknowledges that community stigma remains a major challenge. Fumbani Gondwe is facilitator for restorative justice and peace-building project at Mzuzu Prison.
Most of the people that have integrated in the community have been well accepted, despite some few challenges that maybe we have seen. I've seen that in some areas there is need of awareness. We need to bring awareness in some of the areas. But in terms of community integration, it is really working very well.
Commenting on the issue, Executive Director of Center for Human Rights, Education, Advice and Assistance, Victor Mhango, said Malawi is not doing enough to tackle stigma against ex-convicts. Mhango hopes that the new Prison Act, which focuses on rehabilitation, will improve reintegration through initiatives such as open prisons like the one in Balaka district. Apart from stigmatization, studies indicate that reoffending in Malawi occurs due to poverty and lack of opportunities, which forces many ex-convicts to return to criminal activities to meet basic needs upon their release. As former enemies like Chanza and Kita attempt to rebuild their lives, their biggest problem remains not the prison walls they left behind, but the invisible walls of stigma that still surround them in their communities.
Vice President Jane Ansa met with Small-Scale Importers and Exporters Association of Malawi at Capitol Hill, where the association presented concerns on issues affecting businesses. Issues raised included those of forex scarcity and foreign nationals engaging in retail trade in residential areas. Treasurer General of the association, Catherine Musoa, said the situation on forex has forced other traders to close shop.
We are being affected because our business, we are no longer operating as the way we were operating before. Because now there is no forex in the bank. If you want forex, you get it in the black market. That tells us that in this country we have forex, but those who are dealing with forex, they are allocating it in a long way. They are misusing the forex which is there. Instead of giving it to people normal, they chose to give to those whom they know.
Partners of the World Food Programme, WFP, have renewed their commitment to continue supporting Malawi in addressing food insecurity. The pledge was made on
for the full lean season support. So we have reached 823,000 beneficiaries and also 330,000 children for emergency school feeding. But the lean season is through March, so we still need assistance to cover the most vulnerable people.
Commissioner for the Department of Disaster Management Affairs, DODMA, Wilson Moleni, expressed gratitude for the continued support.
It is very important that the donors are shown where their donations are going to actually meet the beneficiaries, to see the processes, how robust they are, and to see the impact of their donations.
In October 2025, President Peter Mutharika declared a state of disaster after the National Vulnerability Assessment Committee report projected that more than 4 million people would face food insecurity.
In a related development, Minister of Education Bright Msaka says school feeding programs play a key role in increasing enrollment and reducing dropout rates. He was speaking at Namadidi Primary School in Zomba on Thursday during the launch of a 3-month emergency school feeding program. Mwai Goelo has a report on this.
As a response to Malawi's food security crisis, the initiative is targeting the hardest hit districts. Minister of Education Bright Msaka explains.
The point that we want our children to remain in school. They must all finish primary school and finish secondary school. Now, in the primary school, there used to be quite a number of impediments, barriers to completion, and one of which was hunger.
Meanwhile, Member of Parliament for the Zomba Changalume constituency, Feston Kaupa, expressed gratitude.
This school feeding program is a very important program because looking at its objectives of reducing absenteeism and improving activeness of the learners in class, it increases the pass rate of learners at every school. So particularly my excitement comes from the fact that the Ministry of Education as well as the partners decided to launch this program during this lean season right here within the Zomba Changalume constituency.
And United Nations Resident Coordinator Rebecca Adar-Donto expressed the importance of programs like these.
I'm really happy here at Namadidi Primary School in Zomba District because it's the UN led by World Food Programme's contribution towards the National Lean Season Response Plan. So whilst it is an emergency response through school feeding, for us the important part is that it is an investment in the resilience of Malawi.
The program has been rolled out with support from the World Food Programme, WFP, the United Nations, the governments of Iceland, Norway, and Germany in collaboration with the Malawi government.
That's the news for now, but before we go, the headlines again. Ministers face local travel restrictions. Malawians voice out expectations on the State of the Nation address. And in our special report, Feston Maligeso looks at hurdles ex-convicts face to be integrated back in their communities. I'm Tabi Kamangala Munifumbo. Goodbye.